Hey guys, how are we doing tonight? Oh, it's me. It's the beautiful evening. I'm here in the studio. I've made some coffee and I'm getting ready to paint some trees for the Chesterton market tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. I started making these guys back around December, I want to say. And I've always loved trees, and I absolutely love crystals, as many of you know, and I thought it would be really beautiful to incorporate the form of this into our shop somehow. So these have come from some of my absolute favorite model making projects. As a scenic designer, that's like where it kind of developed how to make stuff like this. They have like a twig and masking tape and wire kind of form, and then it's wrapped in cheesecloth coating, gesso, and a little bit of primer. And from that point, the stage it's at now, I can paint it and add the moss and the crystals, and hopefully it'll be a beautiful thing that somebody can enjoy in their space, that will bring them beautiful positive energy and a little inspiration. So I'm getting ready to paint this, and usually I'm feeling super positive when I'm working in my studio. This is truly one of my happiest places. But if I'm to be perfectly honest, I've been having a bit of a rough time today, and it's nothing to do with anything going on in the immediate. I mean, a little bit, but it's a lot of things I'm processing from the past that keep coming up. And because I think a lot of other people, particularly working artists, especially those of my colleagues and friends in the theater industry right now, I think there's a lot of people who can relate to these frustrations and these struggles. And the one thing that feels more important now than ever is being incredibly transparent and honest about my experiences, with the hope that it can kind of illuminate the path of not to go for the people following me. And I think honestly, us starting our business has had a lot to do with illuminating the things that weren't working in that career path. And I've honestly been struggling a lot lately. It's like existentially deep with whether or not to stay. But I think that whole paradigm of morphing yourself to fit into whatever jobs are available needs to crumble and die. I don't think there's enough of that to sustain everybody. And I think that it's really hindering human ingenuity and our ability to thrive as a society. A lot of what I want to speak on today is the general manipulation and exploitation that I see in these industries right now, in the creative industries. You're getting waves of it coming to public light with the writer's strike, for example. My own personal struggles are what I can speak to the most openly and the most honestly. Because also, artists, remember, nobody has the right to control your narrative of your experiences. You don't have to protect people that put you in harm's way because you're afraid of damaging a reputation that may or may not land you work. Because honestly, if there's anything I'm really learning this year, it's the importance of closing the door on the places that I don't want to work with. So places that are really shady or non-communicative about timing of payments, about working conditions, about safety conditions, about the reality of what's being asked of you. No more. Don't do it. Honestly, they need you more than you need them. And I wish that there was somebody to tell me this when I was in school. I've kind of had to figure that out on my own. So I'd like to be one of those voices who's in this current situation that can remind you of your own power and your own right to be cared for and supported as a talented, unique, and wonderful creative being. That's why I'm here right now, and why I felt so compelled to just do a kind of open journal video diary night. I've done this before sometimes when I've been processing a lot, especially the bigger questions and things that impact me, but also that are rippling through everybody on a societal level. And I like to call this series From the Desk with Jess, because this is usually where I do a lot of my thinking. So today I'm just going to share these thoughts. Before I go into it, I do want to just make extra clear that all of my current contracts and the people that I'm working with are truly wonderful. If I am on a job with you presently, or we have a contract this year, we're good. You all have been very good to me. You've been very fair to me. I'm excited to give you my best. And I feel great about those relationships. So that's not a concern. This is all going to be about things in the recent past or the slightly more distant past, like basically the last 10 years of my life experiences as an art student and a professional. Because to me, education and honesty are two of the most important things we can give back. And I never want to be dependent on a place to give me a platform to share my voice, especially if that's going to be compromised by the way they want me to filter it. Fuck that. By the way, I should warn you, this is an open journal. I'm probably going to curse. I'm going to be super honest. I may have a little bit of word vomit at some point if my thoughts kind of jumble together, or I may have some moments of really great clarity. These are the things that happen in a journal dump. So I'm inviting you along for the ride, especially if you're a person who is presently navigating your creative career in the art field. I will be focusing mostly on my immediate experience with the theater industry, especially post-pandemic, and the things I've been noticing that have been raising a lot of concerns for me and making me question whether I should continue to do this long term. And again, everything I have coming up this year, totally good. I've worked that into my schedule. I feel good about those situations. This is about other things that I've grown through and lived through that I feel like people should know. And I'm not going to be shy about naming names, because you know what? My experience, my narrative. Okay, here we go. Little coffee. So I think some of the ways in which I've grown, especially in the last 2 years, I think something about starting a business and really embracing the accountability and the responsibility and the ethics that come with that have made me a lot more aware of the shit that people have pulled with me as an employee, particularly as a contractual employee in the theater field. And I know I'm far from alone, and I know a lot of people have had it a lot worse than me. So I do also want to make it very clear that I recognize how fortunate I am to work in the arts and to be able to express my creativity and my talent and share that with others. That doesn't mean, though, that I'm lucky to be in the room, or I'm lucky to get paid fairly, or I'm lucky that somebody is giving me a chance. Because you know what? I've earned that shit. I've worked incredibly hard. I know what I'm capable of. And now that I am eliminating distractions that drain me of my energy and don't have a fair exchange of pay for work, there's less distractions to inhibit what I can really do as a creative. Because I don't think I've really fully flexed that. I have not fully spread those wings because I've always been barely getting by, because I've accepted things that I shouldn't have accepted, because until very recently, I didn't understand the power of using my own voice or saying the word no. And here's why. I think I'm in a unique generational gap. So everybody around my age in their mid to late 30s grew up right in alignment, in tandem with the recession. And I think that really psychologically did something to us. And here's why. Right when we were getting out in the world, ready to work, ready to make a difference, ready to start living our adult lives and making money, everything collapsed. There were no jobs. Pay was in the damn toilet. Everybody was working multiple jobs to get by. Everybody had degrees that were essentially useless. And everybody was told, oh, you're lucky to even be employed. So the whole trajectory of what we were raised to believe in terms of get a job, do well in school, work hard, you'll be fine. No, not true, because nothing is predictable. And there are much bigger conversations as to why the wage gap and the living cost to basic wages ratio is so disparate in this country. A lot of it comes down to greed and imbalance of power, and those are much bigger discussions than what I have time for tonight. But I am going to draw from that because I think that this is a microcosm within that larger climate. And that's why I think a lot of these experiences, though specific, are very universal. Because frankly, people are tired of being exploited and used and told they're lucky to be there. It's just, everybody's done with the disempowerment and the system where people use other people to make money without doing the work. No, the society can't. If you're literally disintegrating the legs you're standing on, society can't be sustained. And I feel the cracks of that growing, especially as I see some places progressing and really getting it and understanding how to work with their resources, and other places clinging to a way of life that never worked in the first place and hasn't existed in a while. I think that more people around my age group should really speak out because we have an incredibly unique perspective. We were there literally for the invention and the mass distribution of the internet. We were there for that whole transition. We were there from the old way of needing to find opportunity to having a platform to create it for yourself. We've been there for an entire paradigm shift. And we've also had to deal with the largest consequences generationally in terms of lack of opportunity, low pay, and frankly, a really toxic, abusive mentality that we were conditioned to adapt. The whole we should be grateful for what we have. I know I am. I realize how fortunate I am to have the life that I do. And I am genuinely grateful for that every day. Every person I love, every person that's ever given me a chance or believed in me, none of that is wasted. I mean, in a bigger societal way, people are waking up to their worth, and that matters. And I know that I'm seeing what I've outgrown and can no longer tolerate, and I'm seeing it in others as well. So I think that the last 10 years, really, from 25 to now 37, 12 years, has been about me learning how to embrace my own empowerment and to value myself. If I could, when I look back at what me in my 20s went through and just accepted, I want to give that person such profound compassion because I always felt like I was failing and never doing enough. And that wasn't directly anybody's fault. It was a general pressure. And I think too, particularly as women, at least for my generation, you were very much encouraged to not take up too much space, to not make too many waves, to be agreeable, to be positive. You were really conditioned to believe that the way you made people feel mattered more than any other quality you had. And while I do value that, and I care about making other people feel good, sometimes it's actually a kinder, more important thing to tell them when they're fucking up. So I've started doing that in the most eloquent, articulate way I can, but I'm also not mincing words. And it's mostly for practices and corporate decisions, not really so much people on an individual level. We're all making mistakes. We're all figuring it out. This is more business and career related. Because 2020 pandemic, everything shuts down, the voracious machine stops, and we all have a little time to think about how to assess the quality of our time, the way our bodies feel in this endless, grueling race of never getting far enough, of being told that we need to shrink and morph ourselves to fit into somebody's idea of what we need to be employable. Fuck that. No. We need people to come in and bring their strength, even if that makes people uncomfortable, especially women, because I think a lot of the disempowerment is internalized. What I've noticed that honestly bothers me the most are people who know better, both young and older, that somehow seem to think that aligning themselves on the side of a toxic system so that they keep their jobs or get by or stay in favor with somebody that's screwing over other people quite carelessly, staying aligned with that might protect you in the short term, but get out fast, because honestly, they don't give a shit about you. It's gonna come back to you. So if you think that appeasing people, even if it feels gross, like in terms of employers, is going to help you, maybe for a short while, but definitely not long term. They're gonna do the same thing to you that they've done to everybody else you've watched. And it's going to be your choice on whether to stay or go and how to move forward. Never forget your value. As creative people, we bring a gift to the table. We bring something that we can channel and do that the people in positions to hire us generally can't. And so that mentality back in 2008 to 2011, in a very formative, young adult, impressionable time that told you you were lucky to be anywhere, it got very conflated with gratitude. You can have gratitude and also know when something is bullshit. That's also something I've learned that I very much love to share as openly and loudly as I can. You can absolutely have gratitude for the positives in your life and also see when a situation is not healthy. The two things don't conflict, actually. Because I've been kind of recovering from that mindset into, they're lucky to have me. They're lucky that I've been this patient. I have seen far too many gifted people waste their youth and their effort and their creative gifts on the whims of old greedy people. And if you know, you know. And you know what? You deserve better. Go ahead and use that to get started, but don't let them get in your head. Don't internalize them. I have had old men yelling at me in a room because they couldn't keep a meeting going on time, even though they delayed it to talk to me about a stupid list they gave me that was like 6 pages long. I'll just be a little more clear. This was one of my most formative, professional production meetings. I was very new on the scene. I was still in school. My full-time job gave me an opportunity to do a props contract, which I didn't know how to do. This is in theater, by the way. But I was willing to try, and it was for A Christmas Carol, and the list was obnoxiously long and involved, and we had to get into renting because there was no possible way to build everything that was wanted. It was like a film scale list. For a person who was in the 3rd year of college, working midnights at Panera to pay bills, working early mornings to pay bills, and going to class damn near full time all year round. So I agreed to take on this contract because I was presented as an opportunity to get into the industry. And in this meeting, this really irritated old man that everybody had to walk on eggshells around, who was the artistic director of said place, decided to spend about 30 straight minutes talking about everything he wanted on the props list. And then when the set designers said they needed to leave soon, he decided to snap at me, who was trying to listen to him, and yell at me and be like, well, if props wasn't wasting all my time. And I just sat there trying to hold back tears because I couldn't understand what I did wrong, just trying to give this person all of my attention since they were guiding the meeting. And in retrospect, I'm like, oh, this old man was embarrassed because he was wasting people's time but couldn't be accountable for that. So he decided to take it out on the youngest person in the room, who was also going to have to work the damn hardest to get a lot of this done. So, no. Even just the different tones in emails at that time, the way that even like professors that I would go work on shows for, the way that they would talk to me, it's gross. And it all came from this mindset of, are you likable and agreeable enough to be employed by these people that desperately need your talent, but are never going to give you the respect that warrants? I look back at it and I'm just like, I have so much compassion for that person. I wish I could tell them they were kicking ass and they didn't need to take that, and that those people who were employing them and paying them absolute shit wages were lucky they showed up. And by the way, these were contracts that were split between me and another person, so it was half of the money for like a double work show. Like it was basically also exploiting the pay rate, so they didn't have to pay a professional what that job should have been. I didn't know any of this at the time, and because I was a W-2 employee, I wasn't able to claim mileage or any kind of benefits like that. I got taxed very heavily, especially because my whole stipend came in two halves. Like, it was just, I basically wound up getting paid 2/3 of what was already a low amount that had like limitless hours attached to it. So that was my first experience with not only being shit on by the person in charge, who was old and just bitter and super terrible at communicating. But it was also one of my first experiences of what it felt like to work that hard and be paid so little and told that you were lucky you were chosen. And anymore, it has me questioning, am I chosen because I'm awesome at what I do? Or because people think they're going to be able to push me around and manipulate me? So I've been trying to set those boundaries in a healthy, strong way. I've been putting a lot more in writing, which has helped. However, this year I've still found myself, in spite of all of that accrued wisdom, getting into situations that are awful. And guys, it has me really questioning whether 2024 needs to be the year that I absolutely step away from this theater nonsense, because truly, there are some nonprofits locally that I love helping out because they respect my time and they're fair, and I know what I'm getting into. There are certain wonderful scenic artists and people and universities that I've truly enjoyed working with. I would go back in a heartbeat if I have the time in my schedule. It's never the art or the work. It is pure circumstance and the inexcusable shenanigans of trying to get paid. I do not have time to chase paychecks with people that are just being irresponsible, non-communicative adults. And I had a situation recently where I kind of let some of my standards slide because I really love teaching. I had a wonderful opportunity to teach a seminar. I loved it. I loved the students. I loved the experience. I was told like a set amount, but a vague thing around the timing of pay, but I accepted it because I have a trust with this person. And almost a month down the line, I'm still trying to get some answers and some clarity. And I'm just like, this happened because I'm still vulnerable in a few areas, which is I'm deeply passionate about teaching in the arts and bringing that into schools and as a presence into people's lives. And what is the worst thing about the way a creative industry can exploit an artist is the fact that they are taking your passion and your enthusiasm and something that you will give all of yourself to. And they are using your good nature to get you in the door. And then they're finding every excuse in the world to blow you off when it comes down to paying you for your time. No. As a business owner that understands a little bit more about what goes on behind this curtain, I am done making excuses for grown-ass adults that suck at their jobs. Because if you were good at your job, you would know these answers and you would communicate efficiently or connect me to the person who can, instead of ignoring me and telling me, oh, things are in the mail, just check next week. Unacceptable. I would never do that to somebody that I employed. Why am I making it okay for you to do that to me? So I think that's another thing I want to tell you artists out there. Hold your own standards to yourself as well. Value yourself. I'm learning about the importance of researching contracts before I even say yes. Sometimes if I get pulled into something, it's because it's a last minute ask and I don't have time to do that research because I'm put on the spot to decide whether or not to take that job. Even though it's stopping my day, it's preventing me from doing work that I love that will actually make me money. And it's really just in the service of somebody else's convenience because they didn't plan ahead. I don't have to accommodate that for you. Plan ahead or accept the word no. Really, what I'm directing this to are all of the people in charge that are trying to operate on an incredibly outdated modality of how to run things. Theaters of Chicago. And the ones I'm currently working with, you're great. You guys know who you are. Some of the ones who have received emails from me, get it together. If you want to attract people into this industry and keep them, there are some very basic things to follow. Be clear about how and when people get paid. Give them notice in terms of when the job is happening. Protect basic safety. This is where I lose my words because this makes me the angriest. Basic safety standards. Don't put it on the contractee to tell you what kind of safety equipment you need to send people 30 feet in the air. Honestly, no. Y'all are older and way more experienced than me. Why do I feel like the only adult in the room so much of the time? So really, you guys may be wondering why I'm ranting into this. It's truly just because I've heard a lot of feelings that are very similar to mine. And I'm developing a blog series that is all about the chapters of my life as a working artist and what that has actually been like. And what an illuminating, revolutionary, beautiful thing it has been for me to translate all of that experience trying to cram myself into conditions of working for other people, no matter how bad the conditions, into the autonomy and freedom and empowerment of going independent. Now, there isn't as much security. You have to kind of create that. Health insurance becomes a lot more tricky. There are some challenging downsides, and I know this isn't for everybody. But if you can approach traditional employment with the strength and empowerment of, I am my own business and my own talented, powerful, creative entity, and I deserve to be treated fairly, go into it with that. And that will reshape the conditions because they will have to accommodate it and respond to it. Or those people that depend on your talent, they're not going to have anybody. Or they might short term, but they're certainly not going to retain them. And it is not your job to make up for people's lack of planning or their bad choices. We all have the ability to step away. The one thing I wish I would have learned from one of the other professionals, the great, incredible mentors that I knew during my time at Columbia, and there were many. But if I could add one thing to my education, it would be never forget your power at the negotiating table and honor your worth. Instead, it was very much a message of go find work and adapt to what they need. That gives too much power to the people that don't understand what they're asking for. That creates a really unhealthy imbalance that sets people up to be taken advantage of, especially when you're younger. It actually creates some deep-seated, long-standing trauma because you feel, on some level, like you're a little bit enslaved. And part of that is also the old rhetorics of the show must go on and you never ever quit a show. Absolutely not. If a show is unsafe, if they are not holding up their end of the bargain, walking away may be the best thing for you, and there should be no shame or stigma around that. Because it's a two-way street. People need to support fair and safe and healthy conditions with clear, transparent, equitable pay. Otherwise, they don't deserve you. So don't put up with it. No matter how young or inexperienced you are, it is the power of the people, the artists in our hands that can reshape this. I've been working with some wonderful people doing incredibly important work in this direction. I'm very fortunate to say that is currently my circle of the people that I'm working with and communicating with and open to contracts with. Especially in the off season when markets aren't as busy, I would love to keep doing this as work. I enjoy scenic painting. I enjoy the work so much. I am incredibly disappointed, really just dismayed that conditions are so bad and so frustrating sometimes that it has me really wanting to walk away completely. I've never felt this ready to. And maybe that is what I need to do, and that's okay. Maybe I've mentally grown to a point where my intolerance of certain things means I no longer belong in this industry. However, that means I'm not leaving it better than I found it. And I'd like to leave things better than I found them. So even if I'm not able to do that, hopefully everybody moves forward knowing that they have a powerful voice, that they deserve to be paid a living wage and treated fairly with clarity, honesty, transparency, and support and appreciation, like genuine appreciation. Yeah. So those are my ragey thoughts, like that I'm trying to process out so I can clear the internal channels and create with joy again, which is what I usually do. Sometimes though, this stuff gets so loud with me, it's like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll remember something and how it made me feel and the way that I bent myself to try to accommodate it, and I get so viscerally angry that I want to vomit. Some people have told me that's a trauma response. I mean, I have broken bones on job sites doing things for people, like, and I never really dealt with that in the time like I should have. I really made a lot of things my fault that never were. It's like all of these things, maybe it's a mid-30s thing where you wake up to certain things you used to accept or ways you were treated, and you have that reckoning of empowerment where you're like, nope, never again, we're not going back there. That's kind of how I feel right now, and I think it's a good thing, and it's going to yield some of the, it's truly going to yield some of the most powerful, potent, important, great creative work that I can do, because it's honest, it's pure, I'm not letting shit get in my way anymore, and I'm certainly not afraid to ask for what I need. And a lot of that is because of wonderful, supportive friends and family in my life, my own compassion and time that I've spent with myself, journaling this, processing this, moving through the discomfort of going more independent, and really putting that faith in my own ability and less in the search for other people to see it. Those are all the ways in which I'm shifting that are making some of this stuff that keeps happening that shouldn't be completely intolerable. So I don't know if I will be coming to a theater near you in 2024. I hope. Certain ones, absolutely. But I strongly encourage this industry, especially the places operating on old models built on taking advantage of young and experienced talent. Please work with your resources for what they actually are. Get your shit together on a business end and treat people well, because that is your biggest investment, not the size of your sets, not the scale of your productions, not how well you promote yourself or market yourself. People are what make theater. That has always been it. You can do this in an open field. Closing thought. Truly, because I need to get back to work, and I don't want to just rant. I want to make a point. So, one of the best parts of my education was our trip to the Prague Quadrennial in 2015. Now, what that is that is an international design convention that's worldwide. Well, it takes place in the magical, incredible city of Prague in the Czech Republic. Over 80 countries participated the year that I went, which was 2015. It was an opportunity brought into reality by my amazing mentor and professor, Jackie, and Heather. Heather and Jackie are the people that made that happen for us. And the Carol Cohen Award. Thank you immensely, because that was life-changing for me. But why that trip was so important is it gave me a direct connection to what theater is to countries all around the world. And that was a wake-up call for me, because I saw how powerful this can be as an art form, and how pure and how innovative and how strong and important to society. It needs to reflect society back to itself. It needs to challenge us to think. It needs to awaken our imaginations and open that divine spark in us that we're all born with, that helps evolve us as humanity, and it helps evolve humanity and consequentially us as a society. It's an incredibly important art form. However, looking at the experiences I was having compared to what I saw in Prague made me acutely aware of how commercially driven all of the theater I was doing was, which isn't inherently bad. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to make money or to have to meet certain numbers. That's fine. However, I feel like that commercial slant on everything was killing the creative, true artistic spirit of it. I felt like it wasn't allowing room for any risk and for anything that really pushes society forward. I'm sure there's companies out there that are doing amazing things. Again, and I've seen some of those shows. This is just speaking to my own experience in the moment as a young professional and a student about to graduate. What I saw in Prague and what I was seeing in my immediate working world were so different. And Prague was the reason why I felt I didn't make a mistake in choosing this art form as a career because I saw what it could be. And I saw how much it meant to people around the world and the change that they were instigating through it. So coming back and trying to assimilate into the commercialized side of Chicago, where you have some of the best artists and craftspeople and artisans in the country. Well, now we've all been making a mass exodus because none of us get paid enough to keep doing it. And the jobs have just been, it's a whole nother conversation. Anyway. It's driving away the brilliance that could make this such a meaningful, important art form across the board. And what I find is too often places are more than willing to invest in materials to present a facade of things being brand and amazing, and they're way too eager to cut wages and pay people next to nothing, if anything at all, to be there doing the work. And a notoriously expensive city to live in, by the way, which is why I never moved there. I live in Northwest Indiana. I'm very close to the Indiana Dunes. I wouldn't change this for anything, even though the commute sucks, because I get to leave that behind and come home and find my peace and my center and my real creative connection away from the noise. And the commercialization and the corporatization that I think is eroding this art form. It's a whole other conversation we can have, but that contrast that year showed me what I want to be creating and what I was told I had to assimilate to have a career. And I've learned a lot of important things, and I'm very proud of the work I've done. I've worked with some really great people. I'm just saying the priorities are different, and I don't know if my own values align with the theater industry as it currently stands right now, and I don't know if that's going to change. I know where I need to be and how I need to move forward. I don't know if the industry as a whole is going to do that. So, in conclusion, all of the people I've had fantastic experiences working with, thank you. I don't regret any of those decisions. I actually don't regret anything, because I've learned. I've learned important things like don't go drive to Cobalt Studio without having in writing what they're giving you for travel pay. Yeah, that's a name drop I don't mind bombing the internet with. Grumpy old woman that tried to gaslight me on paying me for my drive. Good Lord. Don't do it, guys. Don't work there. Seminars, fine. Education, great. Be very careful with what you agree to. There was no excuse for that shit. Driving to New York and back, and then being told, oh, what does travel pay mean to you? Absolutely not. Sorry, that's another story for the blog. It's an egregious example of how you can get taken advantage of, even in a very established place with a very potent reputation. And then you see what's behind the curtain. And the wizard's kind of a little troll that has no issue emotionally battering people and exploiting them just to get by. If you know, you know. Anyway, I'm just done with it. I'm done making excuses for grown adults who make bad decisions and take it out on young people and pretend like there's nothing wrong. Be better. Anyway, there are a lot of things I've loved. I've just had a rough start to the year. Now things are much better. The market is wonderful. I love our business. I absolutely love our customers, our family, our friends. You guys are giving me a guiding light forward. And if I start saying no to jobs, guys, it's not personal. It's because I'm trying to clear space to grow in different directions and give the best of my energy to where it can do the most. But yeah, if you have any stresses or stories or questions, or just want to have an open dialogue about your own kind of mixed or struggling experience right now, I'm always here. Let me be clear. I may be to market. I may be working. If you message me, I will make time to get back to you as soon as I can. So take care, be strong, know your value, know your worth. Remember, an artist is not a slave. We have a gift to bring, and we deserve to be paid well and honored for that gift in a fair, energetic, even exchange. Yeah, I hope that you all can give yourselves a hug tonight and remind you, as yourself, that you are more than enough, that you are doing the absolute damn best you can, and that your work and your effort and your talent deserve to be valued. And with that, have an amazing night. Thank you all so much. Good night.